Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum everyone. Again, this is our second lecture on, or not the second one, but continuation in terms of the analysis of capabilities. This is after we've done portfolio analysis. We did PCG in the last video. So this is again in our strategic marketing management course. This is the next step, which is the analysis of capabilities. Now, analysis of capabilities, again, we have a lot of different formats that are available, but the best and the most practiced one is the SWOT analysis. And as you already know about it, you've already studied this. We have SWOT analysis, which is the strengths, identifying the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Okay. Now, when we talk about strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, okay, there are two sections to it. You have strengths and weaknesses, which are internal focus, and opportunities and threats, which are external focus. In strengths and weaknesses, when we say internal focus, that means that whatever is in the control of the company or the control of the organization, okay, that is your internal focus, or internal, or should I say it like internal locus of control. Things that you can control from your own, the company can control from its own, through its own resources, through its own actions. This is what the internal locus of control or internal focus of control is. This is what strengths and weaknesses relates to, while the opportunities and threats are from the external locus of control, things that are not in control of the company or the organization, and they are happening outside of the organization, and the company cannot theoretically cannot control it. This is the external focus of control. So first of all, we have to go with strengths and weaknesses. uh, in strengths and weaknesses, there are a few key points that we need to start off before we move more deeper into the lecture. And when we talk about strengths and weaknesses, there is no such thing as absolute strength or absolute weakness. Okay. Well, there is absolute strength, and that only lies with God, Allah. But uh, when we, but everything in the created realm is relative. Okay, so we have our strengths and weaknesses are relative, and in this context, when we talk about relativity, then we are now relating it to the company's competitors. Okay, so in this realm, in the created realm, we're talking about strengths and weaknesses which are relative. So if you want to identify strengths and weaknesses, the first thing that you need to do is identify the points of comparison, because again, when strengths and weaknesses are comparative, so we have to first of all define our points of comparison. Okay, so you have to define our points of comparison, and then based on those points of comparison, you have to compare your company's performance or your company's capabilities, and then look at your competitors' capabilities. Okay, so, and once you do this, you will be able to find out what your company or the organization that you're doing this analysis for is good at, and what your competitors are good at. So if the company is good at something, it is performing better, or it has more capabilities than its competitors, then it will be a strength in terms of performance, in terms of capability. And if it is not doing good, and some competitor or competitors are doing good, then it will be counted as a weakness. Okay, so the first thing is identifying our points of comparison. And these points of comparison, there are, well, you can do it generally. You can just look at the company and look at a general competitive research and find out things. But there are some structured ways of doing it as well, and in these structured ways, we have different frameworks that we can utilize. These frameworks can give us very good points of comparison, and it becomes quite a bit easier to then compare. Okay, once we know what these points of comparison are, so these frameworks are very good in terms of this regard. Now I'll just obviously there can be many frameworks here, but I'll just talk about three frameworks, and I'll do that very quickly. The first thing that I need to talk about is the factors of production. Okay, when you look at an organization is obviously a collection of and a combination of these factors of production that we have. What are the five factors of production? We have natural resources, labor, capital, entrepreneur, and information. Okay, so if a company has good control over its inputs in terms of the natural resources that are required, okay, and your competitors do not have a good control over it, okay, then that would be taken as a point of strength. Okay, labor, labor in terms of the physical labor or the intellectual labor that is available. So if you take labor as a point of comparison, if your company has good physical and intellectual labor available, okay, and you're better than your competitors, then obviously that will be taken as a strength. Vice versa, this will be a weakness. Okay. Capital, more availability of capital or access to capital, or more what you can say, possession of capital, that would be taken as a strength, as compared to if uh, if you do not have a good access to capital or possession of capital or availability of capital, or and capital resources and capital accumulating resources, then this will be or institutions again which are related to capital, then this will be taken as a weakness. Okay. Entrepreneur, when we talk about entrepreneur, we talk about the skills. Okay, well, obviously has a definition, but in this context we're looking at skills or ability. Okay, creative ability, innovative ability. So if your labor or within your organization, okay, your employees have better creative and innovative abilities, you'll then that will be taken as a strength. And if you do not have that, your competitors have that, so that will be taken as a weakness. And similarly, information, access to information, ability to gather information, ability to convert into information, into utilize data and information into actionable things, and dissemination of information. Okay, so all of that is, it can be taken as a point of comparison for in terms of strength. So if a company is doing good in these accounts, then that will be taken as a strength. If it is not doing good in this round, in these counts, then it will be taken as a weakness. Next one is Porter's value chain. Now, I hope you studied this before, but I'll just quickly go through this. The point of going through this is that this is a very, very good framework for telling us about the organization from its because this framework, the Porter's value chain, actually incorporates all the functions that are there and the processes that are there in an organization. Okay, so in terms of its activity, the processes, the activities. So any organization, be it a one-man company or be it a million-man company, will be having these processes that are listed here. Okay, and these processes are divided into support activities and primary activities. And we have the primary activities listed. You can see you have inbound logistics, operations, outbound logistics, marketing and sales and service activities. Now, primary activities are those without which a company cannot exist. Okay, without these, you cannot have a company. You won't have a company. You won't have a process. And support activities are those that are supporting. Okay, that are enhancing the primary activities. So, if the primary activities, even if the primary activities are happening without any support activities or dedicated support things, the processes are going on. Okay, but if you do not have dedicated departments or individuals or dedicated functions for it, but still you have primary activities, you can still have a company. Okay, but if you look at the support activities, we have the company's infrastructure, human resources, technology development, that is, you can talk about it in terms of IT, R&D, and we have finance as well. So all of these are support activities. So these give us very good points of comparison. Okay, so you can compare, take a point of comparison. For example, if a company has good finances, availability of finances, financial resources, um, uh, more what you can say, a better connection with financial institutions, and that would be taken as a strength. Okay? And if a company does not have good marketing and sales as compared to its competitors, then that will be taken as a weakness. So again, on these points of comparison, you can compare. Okay? Next one that I'll go through with is your Porter's five forces model. Okay, so if you look at the five forces model, this is again in terms of it's more closer to what we call, you have some elements of the immediate external environment put into this as well. Okay, So we have industry competition, which is your competitors. So what is the company's ability in terms of its industry competition? If it is a market leader, if it is a leader in any respect, market leader, cost leader, technology leader, innovation leader, okay, then obviously that would be taken as a strength. Okay, if a company has good connections with its suppliers, good access to its suppliers, which again would tell us about good access to resources or inputs. Okay, so if a company has better access and better control, or maybe better connection or better relationship with the suppliers, then that would be taken as a strength again as compared to competitors. If not, then it will be taken as a weakness. Okay, similarly, if a company has good connection with its customers, good connections, good relationships, more loyalty, more access to customers, okay, then that more customer better customer relationship management, then that would be taken as a strength. And if it doesn't have it and competitors have better processes, resources, and better performance in this regard, then that will be taken as a weakness for the company in question. Okay, then we have new entrants and substitutes. If a company has more control over substitutes, okay, that the substitutes that are coming um, to replace the products that are there, if a company has more control over it, maybe in terms of R&D, it is more innovative, more creative, and it is moving forward in terms of coming up with better ways of need satisfaction for its customers, and obviously doing it through service packages or product development. So if that is there, company is better as compared to its competitor, then it has more control over substitutes that would be coming into the market. Okay, so that would be taken as a strength. If not, competitors are better at that, then that will be taken as a weakness. Okay, similarly, new entrants. If a company has better control over new entrants, well, it can have it in terms of maybe market, its own market size, market share. It has erected barriers to entry in terms of the cost of business, barriers to entry in terms of customer loyalty, or other barriers that can be done, and it can control the new entrants that are coming in. It can stop the new entrants, or maybe not allow bigger groups to come in, and maybe smaller are coming in, which are less of a threat. Okay, then that would be taken as a strength. If not, then that would be, if you have more control over how and who are the new entrants that are coming in. Okay, and if you have erected better barriers to entry, then that would be or stronger barriers to entry, then that would be taken as a strength. If not, then obviously when your competitors have it more, then that would be taken as a weakness. Okay, so um, let's move on. We have an example here, an old example of Airtel, but so this would be again now. The next phase to all of this is we have to talk about competition. Okay, now obviously these are the points of comparison. Now you have to look at how your competitors are doing. So in the next slides, we have a whole lot of discussion about competition, and probably that would be leading to another lecture. But I'll just end this um by coming to this particular slide, which is, let me just move on, that looking at competitors, we have to look at levels of competition, we have to look at competitive responses, we have to look at the types of competitors. Okay, um, um, identifying weaknesses, again based upon some comparison. The end result of all of this is that it needs to be a system. Okay, it shouldn't be a one time process that you just analyze the market one time, analyze the competitor one time, and then that's it. You go to sleep for a year or 2 years. That doesn't happen. It has to be a continuous process. You have to come up with a competitive intelligence system where you have to analyze the whole market. And this is a very good framework here, which gives us the layout of a competitive intelligence system. Okay, so your points of comparison, your analysis of your competitors, your comparison, that should be a continuous process that needs keeps on going. So if you see this, we have industry analysis, industry mapping, critical success factors, competitor profiling, special competitor studies, value chain analysis, benchmarking, and building. And as a result, you'll be building competitive advantage. And how is this happening? This is happening through a core process, which is the process of research. You have to look at the desk research, you have to look at different databases, you have to have internal comparative intelligence, the market intelligence, marketing intelligence that you collect, and you have to have market research. That needs to be a continuous process that needs to be going on. Okay, right, guys? Thank you very much. Allah Hafiz. Fi aman Allah.